So your scanner just threw a P0500 code at you. And now you're probably wondering what's next. Well, don't sweat it. You've come to the right place. This is a really common issue, and we're about to break down exactly what it means and how you can tackle it.
It always starts with this, doesn't it? That little light on the dash that can mean 100 different things. But when your scanner reads P0500, it's not being vague. It's pointing its finger at one very specific system, the one that tells your car how fast it's going.
Okay, so let's dive right in. What is this code really trying to tell you? Let's demystify the jargon. At its heart, P0500 means your car's brain, its main computer or PCM, is totally confused. It's supposed to be getting a nice, clear, steady signal telling it your speed, but instead it's getting, well, garbage. The signal might be jumping all over the place, or even worse, there might be no signal at all.
Probably the best way to think about the vehicle speed sensor, the VSS, is to compare it to your own inner ear. It gives you your sense of balance and motion, right? Well, the VSS does the exact same thing for your car. The computer relies on that speed data for everything, shifting gears smoothly, managing engine idle, the whole shebang. When that signal is gone, the car just feels clumsy and unbalanced.
Now here's a super important detail. Not all cars are built the same way. Some vehicles, especially older ones, have one single speed sensor that lives on the transmission, but a lot of modern cars are a bit more clever. They just use the wheel speed sensors that are already part of the anti-lock brake system. Knowing which setup your car has is a crucial first step to figuring this out.
Okay, so we know what's happening under the hood, technically. But what are you actually going to see and feel from behind the wheel? The most obvious symptom is probably staring you right in the face, a speedometer that's just stuck at 0. But believe me, that's just the start. Your transmission is now flying blind, so it might start shifting really hard or at all the wrong times. Oh, and you can forget about cruise control. And to top it all off, you'll probably see a little Christmas tree of other warning lights pop on for your ABS and traction control.
And this right here, this is the one you really don't want to ignore. The transmission can get so lost with that speed signal that it just panics. To protect itself, it'll lock into a single gear, usually second or third. We call this limp mode. It's designed to let you crawl to a safe spot, but trust me, it feels awful to drive.
So we know the what, and we know the how. Now for the million-dollar question. What's actually causing the problem? Let's put on our detective hats and investigate the usual suspects.
And here is the good news. We can narrow this down pretty effectively. There are really only 3 main things to look at, and we can check them in order from most likely to least likely. We're going to start with the sensor itself, then move on to the wiring, and only if we absolutely have to will we even consider the car's computer. So 9 times out of 10, the problem is going to be right here. The sensor itself has just failed. Whether it's the main one on the transmission or one of the wheel speed sensors, they can just wear out over time. Sometimes they get contaminated with tiny metal shavings that mess up the magnetic signal. It happens.
But, and this is a big but, don't just run out and buy a new sensor yet. So often, the sensor is perfectly fine, and the real problem is the wiring that connects it to the computer. These wires live in a tough environment. They can get frayed, melted, or corroded. Heck, it could even be something as simple and cheap as a blown fuse. And finally, we have the ghost in the machine, the main computer itself. Now, could a bad PCM cause this code? Technically, yes. Is it likely? No way. This is the least common cause by a long shot. You should never ever assume the computer is bad until you have 100% ruled out the sensor and the wiring first. It's the last resort for a reason.
All right, enough with the theory. Let's get our hands dirty. How do you actually track down the root cause and fix this thing? Let's walk through a solid action plan.
Look, the key to not throwing carts and money at a problem is to have a system, a checklist. We start simple with a visual inspection. Then we get a little more high-tech with a scan tool. If needed, we can break out a multimeter to test the circuits. Following these steps in order is how the pros do it, and it saves a ton of headaches. Step 1 is something anyone can do. Seriously, all you need is a flashlight and your eyes. Get under the car, find the sensor, and just take a really close look. Do you see any wires that are pinched or rubbing against the exhaust? Is the connector green and corroded? You would be amazed how often the fix is something you can spot right away. Okay, for step 2, a scan tool is your new best friend. You can plug it in and look at the live data, which lets you see what the car's computer is seeing in real time. As you spin the wheels, with the car safely in the air, of course, that speed reading should climb smoothly. If it's stuck at 0 or jumping around like crazy, bingo. You've just confirmed the computer isn't getting a good signal.
Okay, we have covered a ton of ground here. So let's just take a breath and boil this all down to the most critical points you need to remember. Here's the bottom line. When you see a P0500 code, you should immediately think speed sensor. You're going to feel the symptoms in your speedometer and your transmission. When you start your diagnosis, always check the simple stuff first, the sensor itself and all of its wiring, because that expensive computer is almost never the issue.
And that brings us to the final question. With everything we've talked about, is this a problem you feel confident tackling yourself? Or does the thought of testing circuits with a multimeter make you think it's time to call in a professional? And honestly, there's no wrong answer. It all depends on your comfort level and what tools you have in your garage. Thanks for watching.